Hey everybody, Shady here, and today we're going to be doing another 5 games to add to your game collection. And for today's video, I'm going to be doing another 6th gen system, the second one. I did the PS2 last time. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Sega Dreamcast. So, what is the Sega Dreamcast? So obviously it's a console by Sega, hence the Sega part. So the Dreamcast was basically their final home console, the final foray, if you will. And basically what happened, to go over a bit of history first of all. So the Sega Saturn was kind of a bit of a disaster, really, to put it lightly. So originally, if I'm correct, I probably don't have all the facts 100%, but they're originally going to make a 2D system, because obviously Sega are known for doing a lot of arcade games. They're still making a lot of arcade stuff, but obviously polygons and polygonal graphics were going to be the future. Sony announced the PlayStation. It had it was built pretty much around being able to create 3D models. And then from what I heard, Sega basically added these kind of last minute changes to turn it into a polygonal type of system. It was notoriously hard to develop for. It was much more expensive than the PlayStation. And it just randomly released like a few months early, just like straight after it was they showed it at E3 to try to gain some kind of market share, and then there was a load of games that weren't released properly, so they put themselves in a really bad spot after that. So after a few years, well, they pretty much straight away started development on the Sega Dreamcast. And basically this is essentially a repurposed arcade. The arcade unit, the Naomi system, I believe it's called. And obviously, even though it was their last console, they went out with an absolute bang. This system launched with, I want to say, like 19 launch titles. It was released in 98 in Japan, but then 1999, 9999 famously. Everywhere else, pretty much in the States, and I think we got it a little bit later over here. And yeah, it had some incredible freaking launch titles, amazing games. But unfortunately, I didn't quite get the market share I think they wanted. The PS2 came out, blew out of the water. Then you had Nintendo's offering, you had Xbox on the way, and yeah, it just didn't really last. And yeah, it just bombed, unfortunately. But it did have some amazing games. Weirdly enough, it only lasted like about 2 or 3 years around here in the Western countries, but it was still supported up to like 2007, 2008 in Japan, which was like by the time PS3 and 360 were out, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. And also it's known for having a lot of aftermarket stuff. Like there's a cult following around the system. There's loads of like games that have been released well after. Like even to this day you get releases on this system, which is amazing. But yeah, that's enough of the actual history lesson. It is an amazing system. Let's actually talk about the games now. And I've got 5 here for you. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a really interesting one. So this is actually Jet Set Radio. So obviously this is a pretty obvious one for most people who buy the Dreamcast, but usually these videos, they're kind of for people who are probably just first getting into collecting, or maybe have considering getting the system in the first place, sort of thing. But yeah, this is basically like a kind of graffiti skateboarding game, or not skateboarding, rollerblading game. What happens is you play as a number of different characters. You're in essentially like a cartoonified version of Tokyo. You're in a gang. You go around these levels and you have to put down graffiti tags. And usually how it will work is you have so many to get. There's a timer. You're in essentially one map, and it's like get, I don't know, 10 tags in these different places. Then you have to kind of do like some kind of almost race style platforming stuff, because you've got to do loads of jumps and loops and all sorts. It's a really fun game. And you also have like rival gangs and all sorts of other cool stuff, but it's got like a really awesome soundtrack, really cool look to it. It's just a really awesome game. There has been some other ports of this game as well. There was like a HD version, but I want to say that that's been delisted now. That was on mobile PC and like PS3 360. I do have that one downloaded. It never got a physical version, unfortunately. But yeah, you can always just go this route. You have the physical version. There was also a sequel on the Xbox, of all things. I want to say it was like, maybe not a launch title, but it came out pretty early. And it was even bundled with the 360s, sorry, original Xboxes as well. The sequel kind of improves a lot of stuff, but obviously it's not on the Dreamcast. Yeah, and it's just a great game. You know, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this one, even if it's just to listen to the soundtrack. Literally, I mean, I put the game on sometimes just to hear the soundtrack. It's that good. Next up, I want to talk about a really awesome fighting game, and that's Street Fighter Alpha 3. So, Alpha, or Zero as it's called in Japan, is essentially like a prequel series to Street Fighter. You had 3 of them. This is the 3rd game. So obviously being the 3rd one, it has the most content. In this one, we actually see like a lot of like redesigns of the characters compared to the mainline versions and stuff. There's like, you know, because it's supposed to be the younger versions and whatnot. There's a lot of the stuff between Sagat and Ryu, and you get to see Bison and all that. You know, pretty much everyone's there. How does it sound on the back? I remember that, yeah, there's 33 characters in this, which is a lot for the time. What's great about this one is it has a lot of content. My favorite thing, which is actually making a return in Street Fighter 6 now, is the World Tour mode. This is where it actually became, where it originated. So with this one, you basically, you don't get to create a fighter like you do a new one, but you picked one of the fighters, and then you complete these challenges, you know, around the world and whatnot. Some of them may be, you know, defeat an enemy with a special move only, or you can only do damage with a super move, and like, you know, you have to beat so many enemies in a row and blah blah blah, and then you will get these kind of little abilities that you can equip to your character, which then will give you things like, you know, auto mid-air blocking, or, you know, increase your special gauge but make you weaker. Those sorts of things. Really cool. Adds this kind of RPG-ish element to it. The Blaze Blue games added a similar mode later on. I can't remember the name of it at the moment, but it's kind of, this is where it originated from. And then you also have like Weapon Master mode in the Soul Calibur games and stuff like that. That sort of mode, basically. But yeah, this is just a great game. I originally played it on the PlayStation. There's a PS1, I think there's a Saturn version as well. And obviously it's in a lot of the collections. You got the Classic Collection, whatever it's called. I have it somewhere here. I can't see it actually. But yeah, there was like the, I think it's called the Origins Collection or the Classic Collection or something like that. But that's just the arcade mode. This is like the full game. You have survival mode, training mode, all the arcade modes and everything. What's also really cool is you get this other cool mode called like boss battle mode or something, where you just fight Bison as the final boss. And it's a good way just to unlock all the endings for the characters if you don't want to do a full arcade mode, which is really cool. But yeah, it's just a great game. And obviously this one is the closest pretty much to the arcade version that you can get out of the home console releases. So, you know, it's definitely worth a try. Not too expensive either. The only thing is with the Dreamcast, when it comes to these kind of games, you're going to want to look at either that retro Pro Fighter controller, the aftermarket one, which is basically like a fight stick, or getting an arcade stick is what I'd say, because the original controller is not too suited to these types of games. But yeah, still a great one. Next up, I want to talk about another awesome game from one of my favorite series, as you guys should already know, or one of anyway, Resident Evil. I'm going to talk about Resident Evil 3. The reason why I want to mention this one is because this is actually like the most feature complete version of the game. It's basically what was the PC version at the time, but then it adds some extra costumes and stuff like that as well. And what's really cool is you get to actually select the costumes at the start of each run. You don't actually have to go into the boutique or whatever it's called, find the key, blah blah blah. You just select them straight away. And you had a couple of exclusive ones to this as well. Obviously, for the people who don't know, the story is essentially, you know, you're playing as Jill. This is her last escape. It's called Nemesis, but then I think the last escape was also another tagline to it or something, or subtitle. And yeah, she's trying to escape Raccoon City. She's been watched by Umbrella, blah blah blah. You know, she finally makes her escape, but then Nemesis, this like specially trained tyrant guy, is hunting her down and members of Stars to tie up loose ends for Raccoon City. Yeah, it's an awesome game. It's probably my favorite of the classic Resident Evil type games, or one of anyway. I do love the remake as well. I really want a remake. The 3 remake itself isn't quite as good. I like it, but you know, it's fine. Yeah, it's an awesome game. And yeah, this is a great version. The only thing is, for some reason, this is one of the more expensive versions of the game. It's a little bit cheaper if you want to get it on PlayStation and whatnot. You don't necessarily have to play this one. I think I got a decent price for it. I think I got it for about 40, but that was after a lot of like scouring and stuff, you may have to pay a bit more than that. So if you don't mind, I mean, new games now 70 quid, and this is an amazing game, so if you don't mind, it's fine, isn't it, I guess? But yeah, amazing game. One of my favourites. Next, I want to actually talk about, I was talking about some of the newer release games on the GameCube, or the Dreamcast, and I want to mention one right now, one of my absolute favourites. It's a great indie game, and that is Xeno Crisis. If you haven't played this, this is basically like a top-down twin-stick shooter. Kind of like, if you ever played like, what was it called again? Oh my god, I can't remember the name of it. There's that one on the Genesis. But basically, so this is, it was originally kickstarted. They did a Genesis version, and then obviously after that, they basically ported it to everything. So you can buy this on the, obviously, Genesis / Mega Drive, sorry, I should say, because that's what we call it, the Mega Drive. There's a version available, obviously, on here. You can get an N64 version, which just came out. There's a Neo Geo CD, AES, NVS versions of it as well. And then you can also get it on Switch, PlayStation, PC, Xbox, whatever you want. But yeah, the reason why I want to talk about this one is because it's actually the cheapest physical version, because I think the like PS4 and Switch physical runs were done by like Limited Run, and they're like, I can only see them for like 100 plus quid when I look around. This was 42, including postage and all that. And yeah, I think the Neo Geo version's like 300 quid. Yeah, so you don't want to pay that, I don't think. And then the N64 one's about 60, I think. So it's up to you what you want to get. But, you know, I wanted to get the Dreamcast version. But anyway, as I said, it's a sort of a twin-stick shooter, essentially. You get to play as these two characters, either one or two. You can do co-op as well. And you're just basically taking out aliens. There's like 8 levels. And it's like pretty damn hard as well. Also, what's kind of cool is the lady kind of looks like Jill Valentine, which is kind of another Resident Evil connection rather, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's a great game. Definitely suggest picking it up. And if you actually want a physical version, get this. What is really cool as well is Bitmap Bureau, who made this game, just says right there, they actually provide you with the ROM for the game, which is kind of cool. So if you don't even want to unlock the seal, and if you don't mind doing emulation, you can download the ROM and do it that way. So yeah, but next, or finally I should say, the 5th game is a really big one. Very special game, I think. I'm talking about Shenmue. So, for those who don't know, so basically, as I said, the Dreamcast was failing. So what happened was Sega went to Yu Suzuki, who was their go-to guy, who made all the best games like Space Harrier, blah, blah, everything that was great was him. And they basically said, here's a load of money, make us something like that's going to sell the system for us, make our system sell it for us, basically. So I think overall the game cost like 70 million or something, which was like insane, including marketing and everything. And then what he created was Shenmue. So he referred to it as a live game. It's an acronym. I can't quite remember what everything is. You can look up yourself, obviously. And then it's essentially kind of like the way I describe it is a proto-Yakuza. It's kind of one of the first open worldish type games. So the origins was actually a Sega Saturn game. It was originally meant to be like a virtual fighter RPG, and then it evolved into this. There's actually like footage of the game of Shenmue running on Sega Saturn, which is really cool. But then yeah, obviously it moved over to the Dreamcast, and yeah, it's a really interesting game. So you're playing as Ryu, and is that it? Ryu, and basically what happens, Ryu Suzuki, sorry, and at the start of the game, we see his dad getting killed by this other kind of like martial arts master. I think he's a Chinese guy or something. And then what happens is the car drives away, and then I think it's like a couple of days later or something, and then we go over to his son, and then he's basically going around the town trying to figure out what the hell happened, finding out what happened to his dad and what happened to the guy who did this to him. And then it's just kind of like an investigation type game. But what makes it really interesting is that you actually have this like town to explore, and you have a timer. So how it works is you start the day, you leave the house, and then I think each day was roughly 45 minutes, and then you can explore the town and you can speak to people there. But what's really cool is with traversal, you have to actually consider time, and you have to look at like road signs and door numbers and stuff. So for example, if they say, oh, you got to meet the person at this specific place at this specific time, you actually have to go to, like, you'll see the map on the roads, because this is like in the 80s it's set, and then you'll see where it is, and then you have to figure out how to get to this certain place, which is so cool. And you have to actually like consider how much time you have in the day to do things. And there's also like random things, like you actually have to physically open like drawers and you can search and things, and there's like random stuff, like you can go into convenience stores and look at items, because like this game had amazing graphics for the time, very high fidelity visuals and everything, and the actual textures looked amazing. There's just so much detail in the world, and the exploration of it, that is just something to behold. Obviously, I will admit, when I first played the game, because I didn't play this back in the day, I didn't actually get a Dreamcast till quite a bit later, during, I don't know, probably like 15 years ago or something I got mine, so I didn't actually have it back in the day. But I did pick this game up when I did buy it. This was one of the first games I bought, and when I played it, I couldn't really get into it, but then like eventually it drew me in. I got really into it. It is really an acquired taste, but I think you should definitely give it a try. It's absolutely worth trying out. There is also the two sequels as well. There was the second game, which was on the Dreamcast, in PAL in Japan anyway. North America, you didn't get it, but there's an Xbox version though, original Xbox version of Shenmue 2. So, and obviously the third game is on PS4 and PC. I don't think it came to anything else. And of course, I completely forgot, there is the remaster collection of 1 and 2 for PS4. It may be on Xbox as well, I can't remember. But yeah, just a really cool game. One thing I really love as well is that like it's kind of like when you explore the town, every NPC looks unique and has kind of like their own kind of like daily routines. So like there'll be one lady you'll see, her routine will be like sweeping the front of the house and then walking over and speaking to this other lady and then going over to this place, to the shop, and doing this sort of thing. It's stuff that you'll see later on in things like GTA and the like, but this was the first game to do it, so it was really interesting. And it's just crazy to think in the context of where Sega was and everything, that this is the game that they made. Yeah, there's the people who, there's people who love this game, will say it's like one of the greatest games ever. I probably wouldn't say that myself, but I think it's a very special game anyway. You should definitely try it. You should try all of these, really. But anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, as always, and have a great rest of your day.